219th Day of Heroic Resistance of Ukraine. I'm Natalia Starobrava, and we continue the briefings at the Mediacentru of Ukraine. With us, we have Fedir Venislavskyi, representative of the President of Ukraine to the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Greetings. Greetings, glory to Ukraine, glory to our heroes. So Putin has announced that he signed the orders for sham dependence of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia, thinking he is entitled to do so. What will be the response of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, the Ukrainian parliament? Legally, we have to be clear that whatever spectacles made in Kremlin, given the name of referendums of Ukraine, will not have any legal force or any legal effects, and they will not give rise to any legal consequences. Still, we have to clearly see that by doing so, the Russian Federation yet again is bluntly violating the Charter of the United Nations and all the legal regulations underpinning democracy and guaranteeing the independence of states within their international recognized borders. So the Ukrainian parliament will respond. During the next session, we'll file an application to the United Nations and other international institutions calling for yet another imposition of sanctions on the Russian Federation. And now, during the various international platforms, we are pursuing the idea that the Russian Federation has grabbed illegally its place in the Security Council of the United Nations. First, the place belonged to the Soviet Socialist Republic, comprised of 15 republics, but Russia has illegally appropriated the seat in the Security Council. If we could disregard the fact before, now that when the Russia launched an open aggression, first against Georgia in 2008, then 2014 against Ukraine, and started a large-scale aggression against Ukraine using all grades of weapons except from the nuclear weapons. Therefore, Russia has placed itself beyond the boundaries of the international law, and other civilized countries have to support the viewpoint that Russia has no legal nor moral right to belong to the Security Council and to the United Nations overall, as it has bluntly and brutally violated all the laws and all the rules put in place since World War II. Now that we mention the ad hoc session of the Security Defense Council of Ukraine, what are we to expect? What will the outcomes be? The National Security Defense Council of Ukraine is holding a session convened by the President of Ukraine. It will respond to the brutal violation of the international law, and the Ukrainian army, the Ukrainian government will not in any way follow the decisions made by the dictator of the Russian Federation in his sick imagination. So the National Security Defense Council will consider the issues: how do we support and ensure the security of Ukraine? How do we restore territorial integrity and the governance on all the formerly occupied territories? What are the prospects of holding accountable the traitors, the collaborators who were complicit in the sham referenda? Well, the conscious and active contribution of the Ukrainian nationals who promoted and helped to organize the sham referenda, these dog and pony shows that were organized from the 23rd to the 27th of September in Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia, will be held accountable under the provisions of the Criminal Code, calling for liability for collaboration and state treason as well as this action is an encroachment to the territorial integrity of Ukraine. And that's the Article 111 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, ensuring the national protection. Now, the investigation agencies are registering criminal cases based on the facts known to them. Pre-trial investigations will be launched, and I'm certain all the perpetrators will be held liable, as this is an attempt to undermine the territorial sovereignty of Ukraine. But the Russian Federation will be held accountable internationally. As you know, the Special International Tribunal is initiated to investigate the crime of aggression, which is a separate international crime, and the crime of aggression also incorporates the crimes committed by Russia in Ukraine. This is a violation of the UN Charter. This is a violation of the International Convention about the treatment of civilians during the war, because under these laws, the civilians cannot be forced to serve in the army of the aggressor country, nor take part in any democratic or any governance event. What will be the response to the terrorist state action we see in brutal attacks on Zaporizhia that were launched today, as well in a number of other cities? What can the Verkhovna Rada do? The Ukrainian parliament can only act within the current law, according to the rules of procedure, according to the Ukrainian constitution. The Ukrainian parliament can make appeals to the international organizations, to the parliaments of democratic countries of the world, and the Russian Federation conduct, who are boasting through their propaganda channels that they are attacking the critical infrastructure that has no military use. Is just a confirmation that Russia pursues the tactic of terror that it has pursued from the early days of war, when it stated its aim to denazify the Ukrainian government, denying Ukraine entity, and this will result in further consolidation of the international support for Ukraine, provision of further assistance to Ukraine, both financial and military assistance, and together I'm certain we will achieve the goal of Russia stopping to exist in the format it currently is in. Considering the active terrorist attack and enunciation of the referenda on the territory of Ukraine, what kind of support can be granted by the international organizations and the countries of the world? Let me say that currently, through the bilateral negotiations and multilateral negotiations, a lot of debates are in progress, and the Ukrainian government is talking to our Western partners that the Russian Federation qualifies for the state sponsor of terrorism and is a terrorist state, a rogue state. Deeming Russia a rogue state, a terrorist state, is currently somewhat problematic, as there is no notion as a terrorist state, because before this year, no one could have imagined that the government would take action clearly qualifying as an act of terror, attacking nuclear facilities, attacking critical infrastructure, using the grades of prohibited weapons in the civilian neighborhoods, mass extermination of people, mass murder of civilians. These are the grounds for us further consolidating our efforts to deem Russia as the country sponsor of terrorism. Why is it important? Recognizing, designating a country as a state sponsor of terrorism helps us trigger existing international mechanisms to forfeit the assets of the state and to levy other assets, and using them to repay the damage inflicted by the acts of terror of the Russian Federation on the territory of Ukraine. Apart from these sad news, we have some good news, and these are the deoccupied territories. So, what's the status of the deoccupied territories? Are the local managers appointed? In some settlements, the military administration governors have been appointed, and they will be appointed where the hostilities are still in progress. So the Ukrainian government is fully back on the deoccupied territories. The law enforcement institutions are back. They are documenting the violation of the international war crime, the commission of the war crimes by the Russian Federation, commission of the criminal offenses. So the Ukrainian government is working hard on the deoccupied territories under the law on the Marshall's Law. And I'm certain, but the same is going to happen in all the other territories that are still temporarily occupied. Thank you. We've talked to Fedir Venislavskyi, the representative of the President of Ukraine in the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you. Goodbye. And we'll see you shortly at 2 o'clock. And we'll talk to Serhiy Bratchuk, the spokesperson of Odessa Oblast Military Administration. Please